Yes, so thank you everyone for joining. I'm Dhruv Sane, the principal at Malpani Ventures. As most of you know, we are an early stage investment firm, primarily focused on B2B business models. Idea is to sort of run this learning series as a monthly session that will be conducted by founders themselves, right? So where they can share insights on what worked in their businesses. So it's we hope these sessions will be more practical and they'll give advice from fellow founders. So idea is to create like a knowledge sharing group, and we're lucky to have Narayanan and Ravi as the leads for today's session. Narayanan is the founder at Avaz. Avaz is a communication tool for an app for patients with speech therapy problems. He can expand more on that. While Ravi is a veteran, he's been a founder at several companies and he's presently running ThinkTac, which offers experiential learning programs in math and science for K-12. Right. So having said that, thank you all for joining. We'll have Narayanan and Ravi take over the session.
Thanks, Dhruv. We can probably get to the next slide. Yeah. So quickly, the broad context here was both Narayan and myself. We went through this program called the Stanford Seed Program. This was the last year, the batch before the current one, so we want to kind of talk about broadly the structure of the program, and also what has been our takeaways, in the sense that what's been kind of precious for ThinkTac and for Avaz. So that was kind of the broad context. So while we do this, there are some resources which I'll point out to, and we'll probably also share later on email. So quickly, a context about us. So I'm a computer science engineer by training. This was about 3 decades ago, and this is my third venture. The first has been in the technology space, and then working on several interesting programs with the government, with multinational organizations. Then I kind of worked on the higher ed space, and for the last 10 years, I've been passionately working on the K-12 space, trying to put together programs where children learn science and maths in a hands-on manner. So that's kind of what we're doing. Narayan?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. So I'm co-presenting with Ravi today. My name's Narayan, and I'm the CEO of Avaz. I have extensive experience with assistive technology, which is basically technology that helps people with disabilities, empowers them to kind of do different things. So, for example, glasses are a classic example of assistive tech, which is common across globe, no one thinks about it as assistive tech. But we specifically build software and products for people with speech disabilities. So, say for example, a child with autism uses ours to communicate and get kind of included in schools, being able to kind of communicate and get what they want from the environment around them. I also have a computer science degree. I got really interested into building assistive tech once after I started volunteering in Bangalore, and so over the last 15 years, that's been my area of interest. And I'll kind of talk a bit more about Avaz later. So over to you, Ravi.
Yeah, thanks. So, first, what we thought was we'll probably give an overview of the program before we get into our, takeaways. So the seed program, or the Stanford Seed Program, as the full name, is generally meant for startups in the scale-up phase. You have a product that's kind of there you have a few customers and then you want to scale. So that's where, that's kind of where the program is focused. And I'll probably over the next few slides go over the general structure so that you get a sense. Should we go to the next slide, or is there a poll that?
Yeah, we just launched a poll, so you can just quickly take that, and so that we get a sense of what's the breakup here of the audience as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'd encourage everyone on the call to sort of, quickly do the poll and answer.
And let us know if you're not able to see it. All right, so we'll close in 3, 2, and 1. So we can close the poll and then let's move forward. All right, awesome.
Okay. Yeah, so we probably divided equally amongst the startup and the scale-up stage. So should we go to the next? Yeah. So I mean, just a quick overview. It's for small and medium enterprises which are already established, in terms of it is a small customer base. Interestingly, it's a 10-month program, and it's not only for the leaders, it's also for the entire management teams, including the middle management. And we'll probably talk a little bit about how it's structured. Essentially, it's about going from 1 to N kind of a journey. So that's how it's structured. So the program is meant essentially both for-profit, it's for for-profit organizations, and there are very few in our cohort. We had 2 non-profits also. It's for annual revenues of $300,000 to $15 million. Interestingly, both Avaz and ThinkTac were much smaller than this when we got in, but the Stanford guys are fairly, in some sense, flexible. They want a good variety, and they also want to encourage those organizations that they feel can have a real impact on society. So, I guess both of us did not really meet that revenue criteria, but did make the program because we're very focused on outcomes. So this is important. Minimum 3 years in operation, and there's be at least a 3-member management team. Of course, it's local in this area. So the most important thing is everybody has to make a commitment of time. So they say it's 5 to 8 hours a week kind of commitment for the founder, and about 2 to 4 hours for the management. Although generally we end up kind of clubbing all of that towards the end, just like college students. So.
Yeah, I think that was an important thing. Like if you committed that time, you could get value out of the program also.
Yes. So it's divided into it actually divided into 4 parts, and each part has a learn phase and an apply phase. So it's very it's very interesting because you learn a set of concepts, and then first the leader learns it, which is the CEO. Then you kind of communicate with the management team, and then the middle management, and then it gets applied. So in 4 parts, every 2 months, you kind of learn something, you apply it, and then go on to the next set of things. So that's how it works. And many times what you learn and apply in the first phase actually goes on to providing the base for the next phase to start. So that's how it's structured. So these are the 4 parts. So it's divided. So it's a hybrid program. So there are 2 in-person kind of segments and 2 online segments. The in-person is done in Chennai. So it's a full week kind of a program, where all the 70 odd founders are kind of locked up, and it's like a full day. I mean, you start in the early morning and go late till evening, and so that's kind of the first online. And the online part is the same thing, but it happens online. And all of these courses are taught by Stanford professors. So even the in-person part, people come down from Stanford to teach. So this is kind of the general annual cycle. So the next one will end in May 26th, the deadline. So I think those of you are interested, the seed folks will will do a separate session in terms of the upcoming kind of cohort, maybe sometime in October, November kind of a time frame. So and we can organize that session. So the fees is 8 lakh rupees for the whole program, although they provide a fair bit of kind of a scholarship based on the size of the company and needs. So both of us got pretty deep scholarships on this fees also. So that's kind of a quick overall summary. So I don't know if you want to stop a few minutes for questions, and then we can we'll have two sections, one about what ThinkTac's takeaway has been and the Avaz takeaway. And then, of course, we'll have hopefully at least 20 minutes for questions at the end.
No, I think we should continue. Ravi.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Okay. So, just a little bit more about the organization. So what we do is use simple materials like, straws, ice cream sticks, small magnets, to help children learn science and maths, and it's all experiential. So we do have a few new programs coming up that actually go much higher in terms of the complexity of concepts that we teach and so on. And we are very focused on ensuring that all the children across the spectrum get access to this. So we work with the real premium schools in the country, as well as with government schools and everybody in between. So it's a program that has the same learning outcomes across the board. We just find ways to make it inexpensive at one end and give more convenience at the other. That's how we operate. So the first thing that all companies do is do something called a business model canvas. This is a very interesting kind of strategic tool. So in a single piece of paper, you get to compile all the important details about your company. It's almost like a one-page summary of the organization, not just in terms. It's not just an elevator pitch kind of thing, but actually the whole thing. What is the problem? What are your segments? How do you manage relationships? How do you manage production? The whole lot of stuff is captured in one single page. So there are 9 of these blocks. So here it is, customer segments, value proposition, channels, and customer relationships. And then there are 5 more. It's on the list on the next slide, which is revenue streams, resources, activities, partnerships, and cost structure. So this the BMC is it's a fairly well widely used kind of a method, and there is a guide that is there here. So you can create your own BMC. It's a very useful exercise because you actually get to think and capture the kind of core of what your organization does, and then reflect on that. This is how it looks in a structured form. As I said, it's a page. On one side are the inputs, the other side are the customer related stuff or the outputs. So that's how it's kind of structured. It takes a while. So for us, the way it worked was, first we did it ourselves in the first kind of in-person session, and then we came back and did it with our management team. And it was again, so also one of the components of the program is that after in every part, somebody from Stanford comes to the office and does a one-day workshop. So not only includes the management, also includes the middle management. So in our case, about 25 people were involved, where everybody kind of goes through the process. And what I've seen is very interesting is the name kind of gets builds a lot of seriousness in the team. So sometimes what people would not do because it appears very abstract, they'd still make a very honest effort. When somebody comes in and takes them through it and says this part of a process, and kind of there'll be benefits at the end, right? So the next slide is actually how our, before that, so this is one example, right? How is a problem statement? So you have a lot of prompts and support on how to build this, create this problem statement. So it says, how large is the problem, who and how many people, are impacted in which geography. So you kind of have these prompts that helps you create your problem statement. So that's what we've done. And like this for each of these, and kind of as you drill down at the next level, also there are a lot of these prompts and almost like a framework that helps you create this stuff. This is how a filled up business model canvas looks like. So it's all of these, and you can analyze where things are now. The important thing is this becomes a starting point for a lot of things, and a couple of them I will talk about, a few of them Narayan will talk about. But essentially, this kind of becomes a starting point for your for kind of understanding your business and then applying various other frameworks. So in our case, what became very important for us is we have 5-6 different products. So what we were encouraged to do was to actually build a BMC for each product, not just for the company as a whole, and then roll it up into the company's BMC. So some of these documents are available, and we will be we'll share it in as we go along. Yeah. So there's so the next part after the BMC is defining the mission and vision statement, and most of the people in our cohort were either neutral or below that, right? So some of the companies were already close to 10 million kind of US, but they still hadn't got this. And it was not that they couldn't do it, just that they hadn't given enough, applied enough focus on it. So maybe just a quick poll on where the current people on the call are.
Yeah, I'll just add some context to this also here. I think so. Post the business model or at the top of the business model canvas, there is this thing like Stanford's own version added a mission and a vision. The idea was to kind of like define that mission and vision, and then that gets linked to the business model of the entire company itself. And so this was part of this particular question that you are seeing here was part of a larger survey, kind of almost 84 odd questions that basically each member in our team did. So we are an 18-member team. Ravi said there were 25 people in his team. So everyone filled out and rated from 1 to 5, 84 questions across like sales, marketing, strategy, all of that. And so vision and mission was one of like, it's kind of like one overall, one piece of it. And what they tried to do was basically use the business model canvas to figure out how we are today. Like that was so in those two phases. You saw Ravi show like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. The first 2 parts are mainly focused on analyzing where you are today, and that's important for us to know where we want to go to, like how define how we want to go to. So the first, it was very intensive. Like start from the business model canvas. They didn't ask us to like think of new things. They said, put down what you think today is the case. And then that helped because that also helped existing team members to also contribute and put in. And then this questionnaire was also tell us how it is today in your organization. So that was the first 2 phases are completely focused on taking stock of where you are. So vision and mission was a key aspect to this.
Yeah. So I think we're asking on this poll is that what do the founders think, right? Whether how aligned their
Yeah.
team is with the mission and vision, right?
Yeah. And what do the founders think? And as a fun exercise, you can take this back to your team and see what they say. And if your rating and their ratings, how far, what is the variance of your rating and their rating? So there was a lot of debate and discussions around this. Like we had significant variance across the board.
And some of the variants are very much more stark when numbers are concerned. What is your plan for next year? It was such a huge difference between what the management thought and what the the people in the operating teams thought.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So we request everyone to sort of just answer this poll as well.
Yeah. So that we can move forward with Ravi's the next team alignment step. Okay, we'll close in 3, 2, and 1.
This is a good set of founders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like as an experiment, take it back to
your team. Yeah. So this is how we eventually crafted the vision. So this was done in a workshop that one of the Stanford, they call them as BTAs, or Business Transformation Advisors. So they did a workshop with the larger team, and then it was crafted. Of course, since then it's gone through a few more iterations, because they always say that these are living documents, right? So when you feel you have a change, you update it. So that's how it works. But yeah, so the final, these things were crafted in a workshop along with the Stanford folks. So the next thing that, at least I'm skipping a lot of steps, some of them Narayanan will cover in, but the next thing that in my narrative was very important was a balanced scorecard. So this was figuring out, this is like a KRA, but it's a slightly different structure, where what you do is you figure out in these 4 categories of financial, customer, business processes, and learning and growth. This is essentially for our teams. What are the objectives at the company level? What are the metrics to measure these objectives? And what are the targets over the next 3 years? So that's kind of how it is done. And the way it has to cascade, as you operationalize this, is then from the company it goes down to every team, and from the team to every individual. So right now, as an organization this year, we have our balanced scorecard for already done for the company. Of course, it's been there since last year, and then all the teams. So it all gets aligned, right? So we say, okay, this is the goal of the team. Then which kind of goal of the company does it align to? And are all the company's goals covered by one team or more? So that's kind of how it gets mapped out. And then this year we have now started off from the team to the individual, right? So every individual now has a part of the team's goal is now part of the individual's goal. So that's how it's done. It's again a very succinct, simple kind of a structure, but it's very effective in terms of you can very quickly go through it and say where are you on these kind of things. So so our a broad, at least my personal take on the whole Stanford program is it has helped significantly with team building and alignment of the team, right? And so it's a so just to kind of go down from the bottom. So first, all this vision strategy kind of got aligned. That's the first step that was done. Then we went through an exercise of culture. So what is a culture? Discover the culture of the organization. What does it mean? How do you actually implement it, and so on. So that was the next kind of broad set of things that we did. The third thing that we did, which I think was really effective for us at the current stage, is extending the leadership. So we had 4 people in the management. Now we have almost 20 people who are fairly independent and doing their own stuff. And this happened not just in one, and each organization has its own kind of course, right? The BTS kind of help you, and but it's more about you deciding and then figuring out how to meet those goals. So in our case, an interesting thing that happened was the management team decided that they don't want. So the way the program is structured, there is a CEO who's part of the main program. They do the in-person sessions and things like that. And there are 5 people team. That is a core team to implement, and generally that is the management. So in our case, we decided that will be not the management, but the next set of 5 people who lead different teams. So that was a very interesting shift that we did. The management, of course, involved along the way, but we kind of put the next set of people on the core team, so they actually get completely involved, and there's got a lot of reading work to do, and assignments and everything else, so that the company and the program gets aligned. So that is the first thing. So this team, we now call them we've created something called as the company's operating system, and this is the team that actually runs that operating system. So they design different components that are required, implement it across teams. So it's a very hands-on set of people, and it does 2 things, right? It creates a very broad-based kind of a way to implement things that you want to, and it also develops leadership skills. So that's what is done. So apart from that, we set up 2 councils, one a product council and one an academic council, because a lot of stuff that we do is academic in nature. The product council has one product manager for each of the products that is currently there, and also one that is something that we want to do in the future. And everybody learns those skills, starting from creating the BMC for the product, doing some kind of a design thinking exercise, and the whole set of things. And so each of these exercises for the team, it kind of develops leadership, and not only develops leadership, also develops alignment with what is expected in the organization. So the net result of that has been that we have these really empowered teams. So if we look at it today, one is a culturally aligned and execution ready organization that is kind of ready to scale. And so today, I think we're at a stage where if we grow 4x, still leadership will not creak. I mean, the leadership will be able to kind of handle that. So in terms of the general thing, so the strategy and purpose is understood at every level. So everybody who comes in gets a buddy who kind of takes them through this. They understand in the first 2 weeks what the company does, what the vision is, what is expected of them in terms of culture and everything. Of course, the middle level leaders have spoken about. There are a lot of tools and processes that we've now created. Some are part of the Stanford program, others we've created subsequently. And a big part is the team feel very heard, right? So there's a lot of independent decision making which happens. People are clearly understand that, look, they are authorized to take decisions. They don't need to ask anybody and then it's also fine to make mistakes, right? So that's kind of been ingrained into people. Now, how has Stanford Seed contributed? So I've been through a couple of these kind of incubators before, actually 3 of them, but none of them really were engaging, right? I think one is because the program itself was just very superficial, at least that's what I felt. And this is a very intense program, right? And not only is it intense, the BTS kind of are almost like principals. So they pretty much ensure that you meet your deadlines, things are done properly. In fact, at the end of the program, you give a business transformation plan, and that is ranked. And you kind of get scored on it and stuff like that. So you're also told that you'll not complete the program if you don't finish these parts. So it becomes serious not only for you, but also for the entire team. So I think that seriousness and the intensity has been very useful. The other very interesting thing for all of us as founders has been that we have found a very good set of friends which is kind of creates a safe space, right? I mean, it is lonely when you're an entrepreneur. So, and when you're with 70 other entrepreneurs who don't judge you and who kind of are willing to share whatever problems they have, and you can share your problems with them, it does create a very interesting support system for you. So that's the other thing that has happened. And I talked about the BTAs and the deadlines and how it's how it's been done. The other very interesting thing is the whole idea of these different frameworks and protocols. I mean, Stanford has a whole lot of them. Right from finance to HR to to vision. So all of them, they have frameworks. They're very effective. They're simple, effective tools that we can not only use when we did the program, but every time now. So the product management group, they have now a set of subset of this protocol that each one of them does. So that's the other thing. And the other thing is that there has been a clear shift, right, from a founder-led execution to something that's very distributed and empowered. So as part of this subsequent exercise, we've created something called as a meeting protocol. So we said, look, weekly meetings are important. There has to be a rhythm, there has to be a cadence, and there has to be a structure. So this is a document that we've created for meeting protocol. I just thought to share a sample so that you guys get a sense of what are the kind of things organizations tend to do after they graduate. So that's about our insights and story. So Narayanan will probably talk about his.
Right. Thanks, Ravi. All right. So let's go ahead. Yeah. So just a quick background about Avaz. Like Dhruv started off. So we built Avaz, which is basically a picture and text-based communication app for people who can't speak. And so it's a niche product. It's a niche area. And so just to give context of where the business is, when we entered the Stanford Seed Program, we were doing about 3.5 crores in annual revenues. We're a 17, 18 member team doing business primarily, I would say, kind of spread across US and India. So through the app stores in the US and through kind of like government and schools and families here in India and a few some of the other countries like Europe and all. So that's basically giving you some sense of the size of the team. In my case, it's I was the single founder. So I took over in 2018 from the previous founders, and then since then we've been focusing on building just the assistive technology, our side of the business. And so I took over in 2018, and so I've been a solo kind of CEO founder since then. That's important to know. So there's also kind of like it also influenced what I took out of the Stanford Seed, kind of like the entire transformation program itself. So one of the first things that I wanted to kind of like just share is that this used to be our Ravi mentioned his mission vision statement. We had a very broad mission pasted out somewhere that half the people didn't even know. So we just searched when that assignment came up. We all searched and we put this down, and then this got really like we started with we build assistive technology products for people to empower, engage, and educate people, and this kind of just over the kind of the course of time, it just kind of sharpened quite a bit, right? So we didn't want to build technology products for all disabilities. We want to focus on certain specific disabilities. To do what? So it's kind of like helped us sharpen. So a lot of the program and the course kind of helped us sharpen these things in terms of where we were just being like. It also made us think more about the words we are using, how you're using it, and kind of like bring that focus even in our communication. So this was an example of just our kind of like our transition itself. From where we had a very broad-based mission to kind of like trying to bring it down into a slightly more sharper mission. And so, like Ravi was mentioning, this was so we all of us got together. So it's about 17 of us got together in Chennai. We are a remote team, so we spread across the country, and we got together and basically did an entire exercise of the business model canvas, went through that 84 questionnaire of strengths and weaknesses, and it was an extremely emotional exercise for me, right? So there was like people sitting in the room, like even like without, and this was without fear of any kind of reprimand or anything, right? So people were criticizing what things work, what things don't work. There was an open kind of like a constructive sort of a constructive argument on how one team views the other and all of that. So it got sticky, but it was also very kind of like important for that to come out, to put, like I said, like the first two phases were where are we right now, and putting that strengths and weaknesses out and kind of like strengths and weaknesses out and discussing about that was important. So one of the key questions I would love for you guys to also answer here was one of the questions that my entire team sat and answered, and I'll show you our ratings as well, was do we have a strategic operational plan for next even like 3 years, which we are in the process of implementing. So if you guys can take a few seconds and answer this as founders, what you think, what do you have? And we did this exercise, and this was important for us where we were in our journey at Avaz. So I'll give you a few seconds and then we can move from there.
So just to add, these workshops were kind of facilitated by the Stanford staff. So it was not us doing it ourselves. And they have their own set of, in fact, I don't know about Narayan, but they actually at the end of each of these, they will send us a video about what, what they have learned from us. So.
Okay. Yeah. So as the first workshop was about a 12-hour marathon session. And it also brought about a lot of kind of like honesty from the team. You also, as the CEO, you figured out which people, which of them are like open, which of the employees are open to kind of like challenging you, and you're also able to kind of like understand that which of them are like pointing out the important things and not without fear of retribution. So that was an important thing as well.
Yeah. So this one other structure, while you guys answer it, within the Stanford, it's called the Leadership Lab, where 5 of the founders in a city, so there are 5 in Bangalore, along with a Stanford facilitator, would go through a 1-day program every month. So you kind of get into a room with, get into a place with 5 people, and we just talk about what are the problems and what solutions others have to offer. So that's also been an interesting exercise for many of us.
Yeah, and it was, and you couldn't bring like a technical problem. I want to go hire someone. You had to bring something which was either personal or like something that was complex. Like you did not bring like a simple business problem to the group. You would bring a complex problem, and it would be a safe space where people can be open about it. People can kind of, so it was really like just, you could also weigh in and give solutions, and it was a very useful exercise. It really helped me immensely through a lot of different situations. I'll stop the poll we can stop the poll in 3, 2, 1, and then we move forward. All right. All right. So there is so it's a good mix of, so we're all kind of looking at what's the planning. So this was one of the big problems for us as well. Like one of the things that came out very clearly, very quickly for us at the start of the program itself was that we didn't have a very well-defined strategy in place, and we would kind of end up doing a lot of things at the same time, and a lot of different things at the same time, without a clear strategy in place. So our engineering team would suddenly start building like updates for something, but then suddenly our marketing team was moving in a different direction. Our training support were moving in a different direction. So there was not kind of an aligned strategy in place. So that was one very key problem that bubbled up. And and then we kind of like picked obviously the many things. We picked which ones that we want to solve for as well, which were important. You kind of try and figure out which is the first thing that you want to solve for, right? Now, then came kind of like the sort of frameworks that entire program gave us. So one of the more, like, I think one of the very useful frameworks for us was what was called the MAD framework, basically measure, analyze, and decide. So this was looking at the entire kind of financial performance of the company. You measure, you have things in place, and then you analyze them and then take decisions. And the real, like, I think, and it had like multiple steps, right? So you could look at, understand sources of revenue growth, understand the cost and margin, figure out profitability, kind of figure out the evolution of capital, and kind of a lot to do with if you're running a manufacturing business, it had a lot of insights, and it would give that, capturing all of that would give you a lot of insights, figuring out cash flows, and then try and do this for all lines of business. Now, in our case, we were a software, like we looked at it as more as a SaaS company. So we looked at very specific things. We, like, I don't know about Ravi, but we didn't end up doing all 6, but we did 2, 3 of them, but that were really useful. For example, we did kind of like 1, 2, and 3, which was figuring out all the customer segments, where are the different revenues coming from, where are the kind of like pockets of growth for us, and we kind of got into significant detail. So we had subscription revenues, we had across geographies, across products, and we got into significant detail into, okay, what are the different teams working on it, what are different spends, etc. This, again, like I said, right, like we stopped and looked back at last 2 years of data as to what we had done. And the whole idea was to measure that and analyze that, so that then we can kind of take decisions for moving forward. So there's this framework of what they call the MAD framework. We generated a huge Excel spreadsheet with all the analysis. That was kind of like a key point for us to take decisions for our kind of growth strategy itself. So once you have the analysis, the idea was to come up with a go-to-market and a kind of like a strategy for what we are going to be doing. So for us, like I mentioned, one of the key areas that we didn't have an overall strategy in place. So now, given these were there were different customer segments that we were looking at, we basically had to decide where we want to go and what should be our strategy. So again, this was one of the survey questions that we had, and I would love for folks in the audience to also answer it. Is that how would you rate? Kind of, do you have a clear go-to-market strategy for your products or services based on the understanding of the customer segments and market opportunity? And this is a key kind of point, because there are multiple things here, right? So understanding of customer segments, and then defining that strategy. Rahul, if you can start the poll. So this kind of like, this was one of the key things that we wanted to get in place, so that kind of overall kind of impacts our overall growth strategy itself. Okay. So I wait for the poll, Rahul, or I'll actually, in the interest of time, I'll just go ahead.
The poll is on. I think some of them have already started responding.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't see it here. Yeah, I've seen it. All right. So let's close the poll in 3, 2, and 1. And all right, awesome. So folks have a great clear go-to-market strategy. Great, that's good to know. So I'll give you. This was our kind of like a graph. Again, going back to the MAD framework and what we did. This was our graph of sorts, right? Where we had customer, like we were getting. Like if we were making $100 a year, we were getting it from like 9, 10 different customer segments, and it was extremely spread across. And that's why one of the reasons we were moving in multiple directions, and it was a big. This was a big challenge for us. So what we did was basically look at each. So again, kind of looking at taking some of the frameworks, customer segmentation frameworks that program gave us. We basically listed down a set of customer segment characteristics and defined for each of the customer segments. So what are the cost of sales? What's the number of subscriptions? What's the gross margin? What is kind of like, what is the TAM, SAM? And then what is, how do you rate the markets? In our case, is there awareness about disabilities, autism, all of that? That would be an important factor as well. So we had, and what is the competition like? So we had different segment characteristics, and then we kind of mapped it and tried to score it. So getting to some objective way to understand and differentiate customer segments. And we ended up scoring it. And we had kind of like, we ended up scoring it and then debated, discussed. All of this is happening with me and then another five of like my, the engineering lead, the marketing head, sales head, customer service, and product head, right? So this was their first opportunity to actually go to the end to end of the business and understand what's happening. Previously, a lot of it was founder driven. We were like, I was kind of driving some of those decisions sometimes, and they were not fully scientific, right? But in this case, because we kind of deep dived into numbers, looking at and then reasoning it out, this was much more like we did a much more kind of like a bottom up analysis and figured this out. So this gave us a structure to think about things, which customer segment to go after and why. And so basically we kind of scored and decided on 2 customer segments. Even if the scores were a little up and down, we wanted to kind of like where we are today and how we want to kind of grow our revenues so that we're still sustaining. That was important for us. And so take a customer segment which will drive our growth in the future, pick a customer segment which is generating revenues for us now. So that was kind of like the way we were looking and balancing it. But all of this came through a lot of discussions and a lot of kind of research and like discussions back and forth as to, do we give up on certain segments? Do we stop doing certain segments? So those were important discussions and debates that we had. Oops, I'm sorry. It's a moment. Sorry, my dog decided to bark suddenly. All right. So now just kind of quick. So we decided, we understood that we didn't have a clear strategy. We kind of looked at our finances, figured out which were the customer segments that were generating good revenues, which was that we wanted to go after. And then what we did was basically try to translate that into action, right? So like, how do we maintain alignment across the team, right? Even when we were a 18-member team, we had like, we are a kind of an old company as well, right? So in the sense that we have team members who are like been with us for like 10, 12 years. And all of us come with a lot of ideas and baggage as well. And so how do you kind of build alignment across the team where your product, your marketing, sales, customer support, everyone is looking at the customer segment and understanding and driving it the same way, right? So that really, the one exercise that really helped us do that was creating a simple positioning statement. So one of the key takeaways for us that we were looking at positioning statement as a marketing sales thing, right? So what you do to the customer. But we actually use this positioning statement for internal purposes to drive alignment. You know what? Engineering needs to look at what is the differentiator that we want to build. Marketing will use the same thing to kind of like market. And then it also helped us say no to a lot of things. Pick up, like we will not take up projects, we will not take up customer support, like a lot of customer support feature requests would come. We can say no with a particular reasoning in mind. So there was a slightly more clearer alignment across the team that we used the positioning statement to do. So if you look at what Ravi did, Ravi's alignment, the way he structured alignment was slightly different. We looked at it slightly differently. And for us, having this positioning statement and continuously questioning whether if you're taking a decision, its alignment is in alignment with this. And then using this to chart our kind of like roadmap itself. So our product team looked at this, charted their roadmap. Our marketing team looked at this and created their roadmap. All of that was kind of how we shaped whatever was the strategy into kind of like something more actionable for us. And that's kind of like a big, so basically translating all of that thinking, discussing debate, submission, all of that, trying to bring that into action was kind of an important piece here. And finally, with all of this, it was also an internal transformation. So for me personally, I grew as a leader, and the confidence that the kind of confidence that I had on, like, say, Jan 1st, 2024 versus Jan 1st, 2025 was a significant difference that I could see. So this was one of the emails I had sent Dhruv, Manish, and Dr. Malpani. I think right after the first T Studio, I had sent this email. Was that there was a lot of self-introspection, and it like for me to turn around and kind of like Ravi was talking about that entire scale up thing. I also needed to become sort of a different leader and bring out that kind of like just think about it in a slightly different way. And so this was for me it was a huge transformation, and it also, because of the amount of work and discussions, I was able to basically, there was a lot of confidence in how we were articulating how you're doing a strategy. We were talking to potential strategic partners, investors, all of that. Now I could articulate very clearly what we were doing, why we were doing it, and that confidence was very clear. And and we could clearly see how we as a company were suddenly starting to differentiate ourselves from the rest in the business, like a larger competitor in the US, all of that. So the kind of that program gave me that confidence to kind of also just as a leader, as a CEO, it kind of really helped me and gave me a lot of clarity around that. And not only me, it was also we grew as a leadership team. It's my leadership team, like I said, it was a very founder-driven thing. We were taking decisions from the top, and so the next rung leadership really didn't understand a lot of the end-to-end finances. They wouldn't understand the customer segments or the entire strategy in place. So they basically were part of this entire journey, and now they are going to be the leaders on which we are kind of like going to grow our future. So now they are asking those questions that we were kind of trying to answer last year, right, with this entire transformation program. So it also helped that as a small company, we are also kind of always fighting for survival, and so we would never pause and think. We would continuously just keep doing things without having to pause and think. This entire program was for us to kind of like pause and think. So this was one of my customer support head of customer support wrote this as to how it kind of helped her kind of just pause and move forward together. And this was one of my marketing heads who looked at, like, it gave her the context of from a holistic kind of like transformation itself and basically getting together as a team. So that's, I think what I wanted to really highlight is that if you look at the kind of like the looking back at phase 1 and phase 2, where you looked at where you are and then trying to chart that strategy for where you want to be, the entire process, you got a more, so you got a more solid understanding of what you want to do, what you want to build, and that confidence to kind of like communicate that, the confidence to kind of go ahead and execute that, along with the confidence, along with the assurance that you have a cohort of people that you can kind of reach out to, you can ask for help. So that way, for me personally, it's been a huge transformation over the last 12 months. And yeah, I think that's about what I wanted to cover. I'm happy to kind of like Ravi and I can take questions. I think we have a few minutes. We'll be happy to kind of like extend for a few minutes more.
Yeah, thanks for that, Narayanan and Ravi. If anyone from the audience wants to ask any questions, please.
We'd be happy to go back to a particular slide that if you had questions also, so feel free to.
Maybe I can preempt a question, right? I think so. One of my key takeaways here is that you need to build a lot of consensus with your management team, right? Like, so to build and to bring on board the second layer within an organization about the overall or holistic picture of the business, right? That is sometimes lacking at startups, right? So how do you sort of go about doing that, right? And what would be, your advice to other founders who are not a part of this program, right? How can they sort of do it amongst themselves?
Yeah. So I think one thing is through, I think the BMC and that questionnaire is something very useful. And I mean, I don't think you need the full Stanford program. Just do your BMC and then run this kind of a question. I think there's one that we have used that others on the internet you can get. But essentially, do a survey with your people and find out what they think. And that's a good, and obviously you will feel a little vulnerable, but that's okay. I mean, it's fine. And then you do that, and there's a lot that can kind of come from that initial process, right? Of clarifying, look, this is what we are doing, this is where we are going, and then get a feedback on what is happening in terms of where the organization is. I think that's a good starting point. But it has to be a very conscious exercise. I mean, it can't happen on its own. So you have to consciously, in fact, over the last year, I've spent at least 5-6 hours a week with different groups of people, just kind of, on one issue or the other, just talking to them and kind of getting them to understand how things have to run. And yeah, go ahead, Narayan.
Yeah, I think one of the other things is, I think as founders is like, why do I have to waste time in explaining that and doing this? I might as well do it. I think that somewhere you are now kind of like trying to put a break on that thought process and really try and bring some systems in place. So some systems in place for us to like take decisions itself, right? I think take decisions, because a lot of times as founders, we take a decision and then it's we've thought about something, we've kind of read about something, we've kind of had an insight, and then we take a decision, but that's not always clear to the other person and clear to the team as well. And 6 months down the line, there's a different decision. So there is obviously sometimes some sort of frustration also creeps in as to they find that decision making to be pretty opaque at times. So I think that's just trying to kind of like put that as a process, some sort of a structure or a process to figure out how you're going to do it, what's the thought process behind it, or even documentation. That really helps, where you're also open to listening. See, at the end of the day, you can still take the decision, but you can at least get those inputs and guide them so that maybe 6-8 months time down the line, they take the decision. So it's not, it will take some time to give that power up. It's not that straightforward, but you want to get to a place where you can give that power up slowly, right? That's how we are going to scale.
Also, just to add to what Nan says, sometimes you feel frustrated that others are not taking a decision, although they're given that opportunity, right? And you eventually end up nudging them. But that is still good, right? Because you're on the path to getting there. It's a process, and it takes a little bit of time. So I think right now, still with all the effort we've been putting, I think still 30-40% of the decisions we're still taking, but it's taken after a fairly long discussion with multiple sets of people. So
makes sense. I believe we have one question from Prince. He's asking, how do you keep yourself motivated, you and the founding team?
Yeah, good question. No, I think the most important thing that I think is that you need to believe in what we are doing, right? I mean, you need to believe that what you're doing is good for you, for the organization, and for the society at large. So if you have that belief, I think the motivation comes naturally. I mean, that's kind of my feeling.
Yeah. And you celebrate small wins, right? You celebrate all the wins that you get. Like if a customer is like, one of the first things when Avaz was launched, one of the first things a customer used Avaz and said is like, I don't like this, which was great because it was feedback for us. And so that's a win. And I think anything that you move forward, I think that's an important thing, that you keep moving forward and you see that progress. But yeah, motivation is always, I think there is something longer you'll have to, like that, you kind of some sort of a longer term win that you're seeing. that you're working towards?
I think it's good to have a 3-5 year kind of a plan and set of goals. That also is very useful to kind of for you to tell yourself, look, this is where you're getting to, and it's not happening tomorrow, right? I mean, your goals have to be set a little far out.
Yeah, no, I think great point, Ravi. So one of the things I used to do was I was just unable to look beyond 3 months, 6 months, and it was very difficult for me to kind of just as the way I was kind of thought my whole thought process. But this program kind of made you no, you have to kind of think farther ahead, and there were people in my team who were able to kind of do that better than me. And so that was also useful to kind of build on top of, right? That was basically then they are bringing some of those complementary skill sets as well.
All right. I think this is great. I think we have no more questions. Okay, cool. I think this is good. Thank you so much, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining the call.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.